Katie and I are just really excited to share this with you guys, you all, because we're really lucky with the region that we live in, that we've got a lot of native animals out there, and we've got a lot of woods, which means that as you're out hiking, you can stumble across, sometimes the live animal, but sometimes you can come across the signs that an animal died there in the form of their bones. And you can even take home some of those bones. Maybe Katie at the very end could walk you through some of the quick processes for how to clean and care for your live bones. As opposed to what you're going to see a lot of that we have today are reproductions because they're animals that maybe aren't from here. But Katie also has a couple bones that she found out in her adventures, or that I found out on my adventures and have gifted to her to take care of. So we just really like to get the next generation really excited because bones are one of those great things that really connect us to all vertebrate species. And you actually have a lot of bones that are really similar to animals. The most obvious being our big old skulls, our heads. You can feel your bones, you can feel your cat's bones, and we have some examples of what they look like underneath.
Have a carnivore skull. Hold it up here.
Yeah, and there's some really easy ways right off the bat to know that you are looking at a carnivore. And I can think of 4 things right at the front there that indicate right off the bat you're looking at something that's going to eat meat. And it is those lovely big canines right in the front, those chomp, chomp, chomper teeth. You can also tell that you're looking at a carnivore because the back teeth are also still pretty sharp. They're going to need those big teeth to latch onto the prey and to help rip the meat from it. Katie, can you let us know what we're looking at?
This is a Bobcat Skull. And I chose this. I do have a replica of a regular domestic cat skull. But I chose this one because it looks exactly like a domestic house cat skull. It's just bigger. So I thought this would just be easier to see on camera. Okay, so one thing that gives it away as a cat is the number of teeth. So cats have 30 teeth. So that's one way you can tell that it's a cat, is that's probably one of the biggest ways to tell is by counting the teeth. Also the fairly large eye sockets.
Yes, and another way you can tell that that's a carnivore, aside from the teeth, if you didn't have the teeth at all, is you can kind of tell that you're looking at a predator because of where those eye holes are, the orbital sockets are located right in the front. So they're going to be looking straight, kind of more in a forward direction because they're focusing on that prey, as opposed to we're going to see an animal next that's, I think you have one, a prey animal's eyes are not usually going to be in the front because they need to have more vision available to them. They need to have a wider field of view. You can see that those orbital sockets are on the sides of their heads or closer to the side, which can provide vision going almost all the way forward and almost all the way to the back, much further than a predator's eyes would. And if we had samples of eyeballs, you might also notice that a prey animal's pupils are different. They tend to have like a rectangular pupil, which allows them that wider field of vision. So,
if you ever visit a petting zoo that has goats or sheep, you can get a really good look at them there.
Yeah, you'll notice that they have very different pupils.
So this is a deer. I don't know what kind of deer. It's a local deer. A friend of mine gave this to me that she found. I don't have the lower jaw for it. Nature took that and reclaimed it, but that's okay. We can see the teeth on here. So, I don't focus too well, but you can see that it's got these, they do look like they're pointy, but they're kind of square-ish teeth. And they also all look the same. They're all shaped the same way back here, as opposed to our cat friend that has a couple different types of teeth going on here.
So it looks like the deer has a lot of molars. Like that's what a person's molar would look like, kind of square and has some ridges and points.
Mm-hmm. And so molars are good for what? Yeah.
Your hands into fists and you stack them on top of each other. Kind of like your molars in your teeth, and they do like a grinding.
Mm-hmm.
Be really, really hard to bite someone really well and catch them if you just had your molars like this, but it's really good at like grinding things up into a little pulp, which is what you would do with leaves or grasses. If you're out eating, you would grab it and you want to grind it up a little bit to make it nice and mushy.
And carnivores are actually, they do have molars, but they are obviously shaped differently from an herbivore. And carnivores are actually not very good about chewing their food. They chew it a little bit, but not like how herbivores chew their food. They kind of get it just small enough to swallow. They don't necessarily chew something to a mush.
Nope, not too much. They're going to be doing a lot more like ripping and pulling and getting little pieces. And cats in particular actually have other features in their mouth to help them get the pieces a little bit smaller. And you would, if you've ever had your cat lick you, you'd feel that their tongue feels like Velcro. And it just gets more Velcro-y as the cat gets bigger. So like a tiger's tongue feels a lot like just rubbing Velcro on your hand or arm. And that's because they'll use their tongue kind of like little teeth to help lick up extra pieces of meat. So when you get to be a big predator like that, you might not have the same grindy teeth, but it's because you're going to be eating in a very different way.
I've got another really good herbivore skull. You can see this one's got some nice flat teeth back there. We've also got some very specialized incisors, which your incisors are your teeth in the very front. This is a beaver skull. So a friend of mine found this for me. Well, not for me. She was hiking in the woods and she found it, and she brought it for me. Very good. So this is a beaver skull. One thing that's really that's kind of unique to animals in the rodent family are these big yellow teeth in the front. They're kind of gnarly looking. But
Katie, I think there's also something special about those teeth, isn't it?
They grow constantly.
Keep growing. Yeah. Throughout a rodent's life, their teeth will continuously grow. So that's why if you have a pet mouse or a pet rat, or why those beavers continually chew down trees, it's to help them wear down their teeth in a very natural way. Otherwise, their teeth will just keep growing.
Yeah, and then if your teeth are a lot longer than they should be, it's going to get a lot harder to close your mouth. Omnivores are kind of weird because as far as their teeth go, I think they look a lot closer to carnivore teeth than they do to herbivore teeth. So I wouldn't blame you if you found this laying around and immediately thought it was a carnivore skull. Fun little fact about the opossum, as far as North American mammals go, land mammals anyway, it has the most teeth. I can't get it in focus, but they have around 50 teeth. Cats have 30. Dogs have 42. So that's a lot. Big old mouth full of teeth.
So that's also, if you think about it, there are mammals that are a lot bigger. An opossum only averages about 6 to 12 pounds in weight. So an opossum has more teeth than, say, a grizzly bear, which is kind of crazy to think about. And on an even bigger scale, elephants only have 4 teeth in their mouth.
Yeah.
And the opossum has 50 teeth. So it really depends on, you know, what they're doing and what they need all these teeth for. And since opossums can eat really anything, they will eat small little crickets up to, you know, dead prey that they just happen to wander across, because they are not really a predator who's going to be out there running and chasing down prey. And then they'll also eat native plants and berries and roots. So their teeth need to be specialized to eat anything. And I think that's why people a lot of the times associate them with garbage and dumpsters, is because they're very opportunistic. So they're going to eat anything that crosses their path. They're not picky.
One of my favorites. So this is, okay, this is actually a replica, because it's kind of hard to get hold of a real skull from this animal. So this is not an animal that lives in the United States. This animal actually lives in Africa. And it's just,
This is a hard one.
It's so impressive. I love this one so much. So I guess one thing that I will point out with this skull is these huge molars back here. And this area of the skull, this it kind of looks like a fin, but it's this crest on the back of the skull, and it's huge. It's a lot of predators will have this crest, but it won't be this pronounced. And the reason it's so big like that is because there are so many jaw muscles that connect to it. So with all these jaw muscles combined with these ginormous molars here, this animal is known to crush bones. The units of measurement that they use for bites is PSI, or pounds per square inch. So just to give you some reference, a human, when they bite down as hard as they can, they can do it with about 150 to 200 PSI. A spotted hyena can bite for around 1,100 PSI.
So to give you guys a good idea, 1,100 pounds per square inch of pressure would feel like a grand piano is sitting on that, where that animal's biting you. So in that small, if a hyena bit me in the arm, it would feel like a grand piano was sitting just on my arm. So that's a whole lot of pressure. It would definitely crush my arm very, very easily.
It's hard to hold this up and stick my arm in its mouth. I'm trying to do that, but you guys are, you can imagine that.
To give you a good idea too, in comparison to something that we might be more familiar with, like a dog or a cat, we hear a lot of the times that pit bulls and German shepherds have these really hard bites. They're really big and they hurt a whole lot, and they've got just, you know, massive jaws that could do a lot of damage. In comparison, they can only bite 235 to 240 pounds per square inch. So that hyena skull could do significantly more damage than any dog bite could even try to do.
I've got a really weird skull here. This one, I picked it because it is a very confusing skull. What the heck? What? So there's a lot going on here. We got herbivore teeth, but What? What is this?
Big old canine.
Ah, what is that nonsense?
And then check out those teeth in the very front, too. These guys.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah?
I will hush.
So this is not something that lives here. But I picked this skull because it actually has tusks. So these are not actually canine teeth. They're tusks, which are different.
What makes them different? Are they made of the same thing?
Yes, that is a great question. So they are made of the same thing, but a big difference is how deep they go into the skull. So it's kind of hard to see, but this tusk goes about to here on this skull, whereas a canine tooth on the hyena skull goes all the way up here. So it's about the length that you see is about the length that it sits in the skull as well. There you are. So this is a funny little animal here, and I'm going to try to do a screen share because I have a picture of what it is, and it's just a really goofy looking animal. So this is a Chinese water deer, and they're pretty cool looking, but they have tusks like a walrus.
Or an elephant.
Yep, not as big, but you know, still a tusk. So I thought that was kind of fun in case you happen to come across a really confusing skull one day. And you're like, why? It's got flat, square herbivore teeth, but it also has like big saber teeth. So
What do they use those tusks for?
Fighting.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and in fact, most of the animals that have tusks use them for that purpose. You'll see walruses, it's the males that have the large tusks, and it's because they are what's called a harem style of breeding, which means that it's one male walrus with a whole group of ladies, and they're all his girlfriends. So he has to protect that group of ladies from other males. So they'll fight each other with that. And you'll see that they might even have broken tusks if they're bigger walruses that have gone through a couple breeding seasons. They might be broken. They might have big scars on their body from getting into fights with other males. So they kind of use them to defend against the ladies, at least those nice big tusks.